deal happen, we don't. We freeze. Why? Don't. Talk to people next to you. I mean, that is a hidden opportunity. Believe that if you don't have the knowledge, you can get it because you're sitting in this room. That is a huge thing.
Very true. Thank you. All right. We're going to take questions from our audience. We're going to take these 5 questions, and then we'll take our 15-minute break.
Hello, hello, hello. I'm Karen Avedon.
Hi, Karen.
And first I just want to say thank you, everybody, for creating this environment, because this is kind of like a time warp for me. No wonder I had that realization in the bathtub that I told you about time bending back in the now, because I had my bat mitzvah in this room. Oh. And I stood right here, you know, with the cake and the fountain and everything, you know, the whole thing. And since that time, 44 years ago, I've probably been treated like a non-entity connected to accounts of people who refuse to listen to my advice, or, you know, not Northrop and the rocket blew up. You know, all of my will. So this is such a healing, to be in the presence of this feminine energy at this point in time that truly feels safe and inviting, and like the golden lotus, opening up with the information that you need. Because my question was, what certification, if anything, do you guys have on this panel other than you're savvy as intelligent women with previous careers, not putting yourself first, making the transition, and it's really the networking and the searching for the information you need in order to be able to function properly without some overlord of every kind? You know, is any certification or pursuit of a certain kind of knowledge about financing something that any one of you might recommend to better understand the notes, the legalities, you know?
I'm going to field that question, actually.
LLC investment, you know,
I'm going to back into that feminine energy that you're talking about, because I think that we're uniquely qualified as women. We are communicators, right? We listen, we talk. The certification that you see every one of these women on this panel have is people who ask great questions, people who listen to other people, and people who are venturing out, who are willing to take action on that information.
Right.
I think that education is a wonderful thing, and partnering is even better. But what you really need to do is hone in on your intuition, hone in on that feminine energy. I believe that, we've been in a society where business has transacted a certain way because we've been, doing business as men, wearing a masculine mask to do business, which we can all do, right? We've all been doing business with men, and we can do business with men. I use very little words. I'm straight to the point.
Okay.
It works.
That's so funny.
And now we don't have to.
Well, sometimes you don't know what you bring to the table, so when I heard you
And
guys...
here, I'm going to tell you what you bring to the table. Women do business differently. We're more creative. We're more collaborative. We take care of each other. Who doesn't want to do business with those type of people? And it's beautiful for us to be able to blossom that way, and us to be able to just bring our own femininity to the whole project, right? And Iris actually is one of the people that told me when she's dealing with her contractors, do you think Iris is going head to head and chest to chest with them? No, she's not. She's using her femininity. She's going, I've got this project and I need help. And letting them step up to it. Is that true, Iris? I mean, I've heard you say that before.
I'm like, I need a hero. Will you please help?
Right. It works.
And they love it.
Yeah, she gets her best deals that way. And that's part of this. Like, let's own ourselves that way. Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you. I just sold my parents' house under incredible duress. And like you, I was watching everybody not functioning properly while millions of dollars were being lost and everyone was arguing. but I'm the one who had to get in there and not only go through everything and still am, but, you know, the nuts and bolts. I mean, with my hands filling in grout and painting, and, you know, it was an homage to them and their love in that house, but as soon as I sold it, I ran down and I bought Monarch Beach because we had sold it just before they died. And in a month, a painter set off ceiling sprinklers, and I had a remodel to do in an area where all of these contractors are used to churning these older people, and you can't take one step forward without bleeding money. But I did it. And as much it was like, oh, woe is me, look where I was. I was right next to the Monarch Beach Hotel, and I could walk to the... I knew I got the right place and the wrong things were happening, and that all I need to find is my right network, because I've got the skeleton.
Right.
So thank you.
That's
because you're bringing me
huge.
back to life.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Our next question?
Hello, so I'm barely starting, and I have a questions for the people who do flips. I'm currently interested in an area that is rent control, has a lot of long-term tenants. You may be able to get good price homes, but you have that problem. So I wanted to know how you overcome the rent control issue and the long-term tenants that are paying way under what they're supposed to be paying. So I guess that's my question.
Oi, okay. My eviction attorney says, do not deal with rent control. So personally, I don't like flipping in rent control because rent control is very tough. Yeah, and it can cost a lot in court. If you are going to buy a property that's in rent control, be prepared to pay that tenant to leave, and it can be anywhere from $19,000 per person. And if that tenant is handicapped, forget about it. They're going to stay there forever. And there's very strict stipulations when you flip in rent control. Now, with that being said, just know there are rent control areas like LA City and some other areas. Boyle Heights, did you say? No, anyway. Oh, I see. And most people just think, okay, this is all rent control, but if you're a single family residence, it's not. So you just make sure you buy it with the tenants leave them or are leaving, or make sure you account or budget for that to get them out. Okay? So does that answer your question? Yeah. Yeah. So single family residence, okay, yes, good to flip if you're going to buy multi.
Properties built after 1970. 79.
78.
November
November 78.
November 78. We have a winner.
Look at the resources in this room. Do you have another question?
If you have a property that's not rent control, do you recommend that you get the tenants out, or just leave them there, or what usually?
Well, it depends on what your exit strategy is. If you're planning on keeping it, just figure out if that rent works. If you're flipping them, they need to go. They need to leave. So yeah, you can't. Yeah, they have to be gone so you can actually renovate the house. So. Right, so exactly the exit strategy. She wants to keep it and keep have the cash flow. That's a different thing. Yes, you could flip it to an investor that wants the investment. Yes, or a wholesaler.
All right, another question?
I was just going to piggyback on that. There's also what's called the Ellis Act.
Ellis Act, what's that?
So ELLIS, and I just sold a multi-unit in Santa Monica. So he's Ellising, the developer, my client, and he's turning it back into 5 to 6 units. So 2 advantages for him. One, he's a developer, so great. We didn't buy it that way. I mean, he's a civil engineer and what have you. So the Ellis Act is Ellising a property in Santa Monica is heavy rent control. We all know that's so one of the units is paying $700 to live in 17 blocks away from the beach. Yeah, so that, and I think she is a grandma, yeah. Anyhow, point being, the conversations I've had in the last 2 weeks with my buyer, the language barrier, so I made all the calls. I'm talking to the city of Santa Monica, getting smart about it. Ellis Act is basically Ellising a property, meaning if he were to, and he plans to, tear down these 4 units, there are 4 tenants there right now, one of which is a senior. So that senior who may actually have a disability, that maybe is going to be answered next week, literally. If in fact that is the case, that one tenant is legally allowed to stay 12 months, so not forever, 12 months. So she's fine.
So we need to just make sure that we're up to date on, and we have a couple attorneys on our next panel, so we'll get some, advice from there. So our next question, please.
Yes, good morning. My name is Darlisa. I am a performing arts high school teacher turned real estate investor. I believe housing is a human right. I also believe housing can provide sanctuary for a lot of people. I'm also a millennial, so I think, a lot of my coworkers, my friends, I think we still want the American dream. We still want home ownership. But when we look at a lot of the price tags, especially in urban areas, because we don't necessarily want to live out in the countryside, we get a little big, wide-eyed. So my question, is it possible to create, and I'm guessing yes, and if so, how does one go about creating home ownership opportunities that are affordable for income levels, particularly between $50,000 and $80,000 a year, either as a single person or as a couple?
There's also some condos that are being planned to be developed as affordable housing. So it's a matter of finding where is that you want to live and if that really aligned with your budget. I mean, if you want an affordable housing, I don't think that you might want to live in Beverly Hills. I don't say it's possible. There's always a possible way. Maybe just get a bunch of people that lives with you and whatever. But what I'm trying to say is it's going to be limited to what is that you really want. And just use Airbnb, get someone to help you out and qualify for the mortgage, buy a multifamily. That was my first deal. I live in one, renting the other one, sell it 2 years later, make over $200,000, and my tenant was paying 70% of my mortgage. So, and the banks will consider that as part of your income. So that's another way to do it.
Okay. I'm not a millennial, but I have another recommendation. If you can find a house that's owned free and clear, and there are, like, I know my mother-in-law is one of them. She lives up in Santa Rosa, survived the fire, fortunately. But she bought her house when it was $30,000 way back when, no mortgage. It's now up, like, I think it's $600,000 or $700,000. And her taxes are really low. So if you can find somebody, you have to look and do some work, but if you can find somebody that's free and clear and then have them seller finance you, and you can even, we're on camera here, but if you have them put the house into a trust, then you can take over and purchase the beneficial interest of that trust, and taxes don't get reassessed because you are now just assuming the title by taking over that interest of the trust. So I don't know if everybody followed that. But that's a really great way if you can find that situation and find a homeowner. And one of the ways that you can sell it to them is by saying, look, if you sell this property now, and you take, let's say, $700,000 for it, you're going to have to pay taxes on that whole chunk. And somebody who's maybe of a retirement age, they're not going to want to do that. So by seller financing, you're paying them little by little. And you don't want to necessarily throw around the term seller finance. Would you be willing to seller finance? But a way you can say that is, would you be willing to take your payments over time? And I will pay you on a monthly basis of this amount. That way you can have some cash flow. You're not going to have to pay taxes on the huge chunk, and it's better for them. So now you're making it a win-win for them and for you.
Really quick. Also, being a millennial, if you're a first-time home buyer, there are all kinds of government programs, because if you're buying a $700,000 house, even the down payment is exorbitant, right? There's all kinds of government programs that are out there. I don't know if Sapphire, there used to be a Sapphire program. I don't know if that's still in effect. but they
We'll have
actually
some people
will-
on our second panel talking about financing.
Oh, there you go. Okay, so ask them that question. But they'll help